newspapers. He also conceptualized the India's first leadership talk, which is telecasted on the Lok Sabha TV. Dr. Jare has rich instrumental experience, having worked in US, Japan, and Europe. With this brief profile, now I request Dr. Abhay Jare, Chief Innovation Officer, Ministry of Education, to address the participants. So the dais is open to you now, sir.
Namaskar. Thank you, Dr. Ellen Govan. I will really like to thank the entire MIC team, that is Ministry of Education Innovation team, for organizing this program. Many of the achievements which you talked, Ellen, about me is not actually
Ajay and our whole MIC team to organize such a session on a very auspicious day, what I believe is for people in IP domain and innovation space like us. It is a day when everyone across the world, they talk about IP, deliberate about IP, and actually see how we can harness this intellectual capability of this human race to move forward to make this world a better place. This initiative, as Dr. Ellen mentioned and Dr. Jare also mentioned, from our innovation cells end, we have started Kapila in remembrance of none other than our beloved late President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who always shared or always had a vision about how to make. I'll be taking forward from those notes. And frankly, friends, today, I'm not going to brief about what is IP. Because I believe as on today, you must be attending a lot of sessions which are happening across the country today, because myself, this is like 4th or 5th session of the day where we are participating and discussing about IP. But in this session, I actually wanted to ponder upon, I actually wanted to put in the viewpoint that why, after all, IP is important, and that too in academia. Why? A lot of talks are happening. People are talking about there are number of IPs, so many different IPs are there. There are patents, copyrights, trademarks, and GIs, brand names, whatnot. A lot of teaching is happening. And during the lockdown, I believe, or since past 1.5 years, when this hybrid learning or these webinars started happening, IPR or awareness about IPR is one such topic which is doing every nook and corner, or maybe round the clock, you can see something or the other thing happening about IP awareness. Authority has just entered into the nook and corner of, or rather just around the corner of us. As we say, in a knowledge-based economy, everything, it revolves around about our ideas, the concepts, the thought process, what we are doing, the interactions we are having, even our today's talk, what it is: flow of data, flow of information, sharing of knowledge, sharing of thoughts. During the course of my today's talk, I have tried to bring in a lot of examples. Again, as said, I am not going to talk about what is IP. I'm going to talk about what IP has done so far in different countries, so that we have examples, we have some aspiration to look beyond, to move forward, and see what our universities and academia culture can lay the foundation for. So my first example for today is Professor Amnen Shashua. Now, friends, what I'm trying to do out here is bring in the academia stalwarts, the people who at one point of time are professor in the institutions. They are or they were teachers, and then they moved on and built conglomerates, world-renowned companies. Amnon Shashua from Israel. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of him. He is the co-founder. You must have seen even whenever there is a setup of a university, a lot of small businesses, they come up. That's how it is. And I still remember there was, I was talking to chairman and the vice chancellor of one university. They were telling me, the businesses around our campus is such, they ask and they take university calendar from us that when are the vacation period, when are the off days going to happen, because their only source of income is university. That's how it happens in our country, right? Majority of the places. Now, have you ever thought of, and many of the universities or campuses, they actually are doing, if we develop a startup ecosystem around that academic setup, like we have a lot of prolific incubation centers, of late they came up around the country. Now just imagine how things are transforming over there when startup ecosystem is being built. And that's what happened in Silicon Valley and even in Boston. So now when we say if somebody, or I have taken the example out here, the city leaders, they want to bring in fast growing companies to attract capital or reward investors, instead just focus on the local university or the institution mechanism or the professors, what they are doing, and they try to harness their startup capabilities, try to build that startup ecosystem over there so that local economies start flourishing. And a very good example of this is none other than Professor Frederick Terman. And I'm taking you to year 1920s, I believe, mid-1920s. Now what has happened? A young Frederick Terman, he finished his PhD from MIT, moved to Stanford, and there a lot of fruit orchards and other thing was there. Now during his MIT days, he learned how a faculty member can nurture the young birds and can form the startups out there. Now what he did, taking clue from his own inspiration, he pushed two of his students, William Hewlett and David Packard. I'm sure you would be able to relate to what I'm talking to. William Hewlett and David Packard to start the Hewlett Packard in 1939, almost 90 years ago. Now that started happening. And then through his own contacts, he started getting them some projects, some contracts. Now, HP's culture, other companies started happening. Again, you will be, I'm sure a few of you must be aware of, and those who are not, Apple's co-founder, Steve Wozniak, he was an HP engineer. Years from Shockley company, he moved out, they moved out, they started Fairchild Semiconductor. And then from Fairchild Semiconductor, some moved out, they started Intel. Now can you envision how this whole ecosystem started developing in? 1 to 2 to 3 to X to Y to Z overall, and then everywhere across that particular belt, companies started coming up. Professors, they came up with their ideas, they built on their teams from the students, and then they moved on. Lot of IP started generating in. And that's how even universities, they started earning it. Because professors, they are of the university, students, they are of the universities, they are doing something together. Yes, they have that kind of policy frameworks, they have that kind of, officers or the mechanism in place whereby appropriate IP or sharing mechanism can happen, and these people can move out and start their own companies. And I very, very strongly believe that is something which we have to build around here. Then we can have n number of success stories, n number of startup cities across India. It's not like we invite companies to form. It's like companies starts taking birth out of that local ecosystem. And that's why it is being said, this city belongs to X company, this city belongs to Y company, right? The role of IP in academia, as I said, universities and our research institutions, they are factories of the knowledge economy. And IP, it adds another mechanism for these universities to disseminate the knowledge that they generate or to have that knowledge used in the economic sector. Can you just envision how much amount of IP is being generated daily in our academic system? If we just start collating, if we just start relating, it's humongous. And in India, if we just relate, we have around 1,000 universities, we have around, in totality, 40,000 plus institutions. Every day, nook and corner, now even in today's scenario, we are having this online webinars or sessions and whatnot. Just imagine the amount of knowledge generated from our publications or new research in chemical labs or our any confidential informations or even our structured documents, our curriculum documents, our programs in the labs. IP exists everywhere. It exists everywhere. We need to institutionalize it. And that's where I would be harnessing it today. I would be pressing the stress or the need today that what we are supposed to do. As I said, what universities or institutions, they should own the IP in a manner that it should be flexible enough. The inventors or the research is being sponsored by the local research houses. That was the earlier system. Today, again, because of the information age, a lot of center of excellences, they are being established and exchange of this IP is happening across. But still, what is the gap? Where we are missing? Are our institutions or academia or students or faculty members or research scholars, they are prepared how to use that kind of IP? Now here, I would like to talk about research management and IP. Now what in the developing economies, what used to happen, or primarily what is happening? Neither promotion nor protection. IP, it is making waves in particular from itself and the popular program as Dr. Jere mentioned and Dr. Ellen. We are trying to put in IPR in UG, PG, and even for PhD students, just like we learn research methodologies. Why not to talk about what is IP? It is just like a moral studies we used to teach our school grade students, first or second class. I believe understanding of IP is far more important. Then the major issue